So guys, what if Naruto was blast from the past and Ino is slave? Part 1. A tall muscled man lay in bed, his eyes closed and a small peaceful smile on his lips. His blonde hair was long, and went down to his shoulders when it wasn't tied up. The man shifted and sighed. Another day, and the 24-year-old man opened his eyes, squinting as light poured in from the gap in the curtains. He heard the birds chirping outside and guessed it was sometime in the morning. Morning already. A female voice. The blonde hair of the woman was draped over the man's bare muscled chest and she snuggled into his hold. Yes, another lovely summer day, the man spoke back, his deep voice piercing the otherwise quiet room. The woman groaned. It's too darn early, honey, she complained as her husband began shuffling. The man laughed, and gave her a long slow kiss, making the blonde woman moan happily. Yes it is, but you know our darling children will already be awake, he smiled. She grinned. Ah, but we don't know for sure, do we? She barely finished before they heard a yell. Mom. Dad. SHIKAS, picking on ME, came the loud shout of a young girl. The blonde woman moaned in defeat and slumped back onto the bed. Shut up, you, she muttered to her grinning husband. She groaned and sat up, pulling on her morning robe and sitting down at her vanity mirror. Is that what they're called? To fix up her hair. The man, however, pulled on a tight black shirt and black baggy pants. The shirt had the emblem for 6th on the back of it in white. The man yawned before heading downstairs towards the kitchen. On his way he came across 2 young children, a girl and a boy. Both had blonde hair. The boy's eyes were a bright blue, whereas the girl's were a deeper shade of blue. He often compared their eyes, saying his son's was the sky, and his daughter's the sea. Both looked up before giving a shout of daddy, and jumping into the laughing man's arms, he picked them up and whirled them around before putting them down and leading them to the kitchen. Hey you two, you sleep all right? Both nodded. Yay, I was fighting some really evil bad man and so totally kicked his butt, dad. Just like you do. The young boy spoke quickly. The man chortled, that's my boy, but remember, you have a long way to go before you can beat your old man. He ruffled the boy's hair. He tickled the girl, who squealed and giggled. Daddy, stop that. Mom. Dad's tickling me, she yelled, as the man unrelentlessly tickled her. So tickle him back, honey, you know he's ticklish under his armpit, the blonde woman said, walking into the kitchen. Traitor. The man yelled, laughing as both the small children attacked him and began to try and tickle him. Both were giggling and squealing as their father tickled them back. Soon both the children were sitting at the table eating breakfast, as the man rose and spoke. I'll be back soon, kids, just a few things to get done, then we'll go out to the park later, all right? Both kids nodded, talking quickly and laughing as they thought of going to see their friends at the park. Naruto dear, remember you're on holiday, so no training, the women glared playfully at him. Naruto let out a laugh. Sure dear, I am just picking up some kunai and other stuff I am running low on. He bent over and gave his wife a kiss. Won't be long, okay Ino? He whispered. Ino nodded as Naruto walked out. Haruno Sakura stared at the Hokage monument in pure shock. There, right next to the head of the 5th Hokage, was the face of her old teammate Uzumaki Naruto. I don't believe it. Naruto actually did it. He became Hokage, she thought in shock. She had left the village 6 years ago. She had no other choice. After she had watched Naruto defeat and kill her old love Uchiha Sasuke, she had went into a severe depression. She had asked Tsunade for permission to leave Konoha, as everything reminded her of Sasuke. She had no naive hopes that Sasuke could be saved. She knew that he was beyond help, but his death still hit her hard. She had been leaving when Naruto had confronted her, and had begged her to stay. She smiled sadly when she remembered his words that night she left. Flashback. Sakura-chan, please, don't leave. Konoha is your home. You have friends here, your parents, people who care for you. He spoke quietly to Sakura, who had tears running down her cheeks. Sakura-chan, please, I am your friend, your teammate, we've been through a lot. I care for you, Sakura, a lot, please don't leave. She shook her head. Naruto, I can't stay here. I am reminded of him wherever I look. I need to leave. I can't stay here any longer. Please, if you really care for me, just let me go, she cried. Naruto stood in front of her. He looked deeply into her eyes. For a few minutes, neither moved, until Naruto leaned forward and hugged the shocked girl, before he let go and slowly stood to the side to let her pass. Without a word spoken, Sakura ran out of Konoha, and out of Naruto's life. End flashback. She shook her head. Ever since she had left, she had thought of Naruto the most. It had taken her some time, but she slowly came to realize that she had feelings for Naruto, very strong and deep ones. She shook her head and headed straight for the Hokage's tower. It was time she told Naruto how she felt. Tsunade sat at the Hokage's desk, going through the seemingly never-ending stack of paperwork. Ever since Naruto had become Hokage, he seemed to get through all his paperwork quicker than she, the fourth, the third, and the second and first ever could, and he wouldn't even tell her how he did it. It's rather easy, he would smirk at her. I am surprised the other Hokages never figured it out. She sighed and shook her head. She was happy for Naruto. The kid was finally living a life he deserved. He was married, had kids, had reached his dream and became the Rukadame. Is that right? Hokage, and had gained acceptance from the villagers, who began to soften up towards him after his efforts in the war with Sound. She herself took over for him when he had his holidays, so he had time to spend with his family. She frowned slightly. She remembered how down and depressed Naruto was the following months that Sakura, her apprentice, had left. Ino had become friends with him and brought him out of his depression, and the two had fallen for each other soon after that. The wedding between the two of them was one of the happiest times in her life after the defeat of Orochimaru and Akatsuki. The twins they had soon after was also a very happy time. She looked up as there was knock at the door. Come on in, she called. Her jaw dropped as she saw who had walked in. She recognized her pink-haired apprentice instantly, Sakura. She gaped. Sakura nodded and giggled. Hey Tsunade-sama. What are you doing here? I thought Naruto was Hokage. Tsunade shook herself. He is, but he's on his holidays. She suddenly stiffened when she finally got a good look at her former apprentice's face, which was flushed with a small smile and faraway look in her eyes. That's great. I can't wait to see him again. I have so much to tell him. Sakura, Tsunade started, but she was interrupted. Well, I am off to see how everyone's doing. Later Tsunade-sama. Sakura called and walked out before she could stop her. Tsunade stared at the door blankly, before groaning, and pulling out a bottle of sake and taking a swig. Naruto didn't know what was coming. Ino was sitting on her couch reading one of her favorite books, or as Naruto called it, her lovey-dovey books. She was absently fingering her wedding ring. It seemed so hard to believe how much her life had turned out differently than what she had dreamed it to be when she was younger. She looked out the window and saw the twins playing around in the garden. Shika and Mira were the most hyper kids there were. She felt worn out every time she had to keep them in order, and with Naruto as Hokage it was mainly her who had to handle them. Still, even as Hokage, Naruto's #1 priority was his family. He took every Sunday off to spend the day with her and the kids, whether it was going out to the park or forest on sunny days, or staying inside and playing board games on rainy days. She looked up as she heard Mira calling on her, and stood up. She walked into the hallway and saw her daughter talking with Sakura? She said in shock. The pink-haired woman turned around and smiled. Hey Ino, long time no see huh? She said, hugging her old best friend. Yay, God, it's been year. Look at you, you're looking great. Ino smiled. Never mind me, look at you, a mother? Who's have thought? She smirked. Ino laughed and ruffled her daughter's hair. Yay, this is Mira, and her brother. She is out in the garden still. Mira nodded. He's playing at ninjas again. He's practicing something Dad taught him. What was it? Henge. Ino's eye twitched. Oh really? Well, I'll be having a word with your father about that. I told him not until he entered the academy. Mira giggled before heading back outside, no doubt to tell her brother of their dad's soon coming demise. Ino sighed before turning towards Sakura. Come on in, you want some coffee? I have some still hot. Sakura nodded. Sure, that's be wonderful, as she was led into the living room. As Sakura sat, she glanced around and thought to herself, so Ino was married and had 2 kids. She wondered who the guy was. She had found out that Shikamaru, Ino's old boyfriend, was now married to Temari from Suna, and Hinata and Kiba had gotten together, and the other D from the Rookie 9 were all living their lives. Ino came back in and sat down, handing a mug of coffee to her. So what's the deal? Why are you back? Sakura smiled. I just thought I'd been running long enough, so I am back and hoping it'll be for good. Ino nodded. That's great. I happen to know Shizune, the head medic Nin, has quit, so the job's still available if you're still interested. Sakura looked shocked. Really? Why'd she leave? Ino shrugged. Her and Iruka-sensei have been married for about 2 years, and she's became pregnant recently. Sakura squealed. Oh, that is so cute. What about Kakashi-sensei? Do you know what he's up to these days? Ino smirked. Married, and he's head of the Anbu. Sakura's jaw dropped. You're kidding. Who? I can't remember her name. Some girl from Mist who moved to Konoha. They actually have a kid. Sakura smiled. Really? Wow, it has been a while. Anyways, I was meant to ask earlier, who's your husband? Do I know him? Ino opened her mouth to reply, but was cut off by a shout from outside. Dad. Came 2 childish voices, along with the laugh of a man. Honey, I am home. The voice called. Ino smiled brightly and stood up. I am on the living room, dear, we have a guest. Oh? Came the voice. Who? Well, come and see you, big nut, and I have a bone to pick with you. Sakura watched as a tall man with long blonde hair came in, carrying a giggling Mira on his shoulder. Who? Me? He asked innocently, his back turned from Sakura. Yes, you. Ino growled playfully. Why is it our son has been practicing a henjutsu? The man laughed nervously. Well, my bad. Look, he was in a bad mood, so I taught him to cheer him up. You know how he loves shinobi stuff. Ino sighed before wrapping her arms round the man, and kissing his cheek. All right, you're forgiven, at least it wasn't anything bad. The man laughed and turned around, both him and Sakura finally spotting each other. Sakura's jaw dropped in shock. The mont's long blonde hair, blue eyes, and whisker marks filled her vision, and she felt like time had stopped. Uzumaki Naruto, the boy she had fallen in love with, was married, had kids, and was happy with her old best friend Ino. She suddenly felt colder, as her heart shattered into pieces seeing Naruto hugging Ino, and holding his daughter on his shoulder. Naruto. Sakura stuttered slightly as she stared at the face of the boy she was in love with. Naruto's smile seemed to fade slightly as he stared at Sakura in confusion. Sakura. Wow, it's been a while, he spoke, his deep voice sending shivers down Sakura's back. Why, oh, why did I leave? She wondered to herself. Hi. It's been a while, she whispered, watching as Naruto shuffled his daughter when his shoulder fell asleep. She tried her best to keep down her anger and jealousy at her former friend. I left, he wasn't mine, but he should be. He said he loved for me, she thought angrily. So when did this happen? She asked in a slightly cold tone of voice. Ino and Mira didn't seem to pick up on it as it was so faint, but Naruto did easily. After all, a Hokage had to be able to tell these things. Naruto's face remained as its usual warm smile look, but inside his mind was quickly gathering what the signs Sakura was pointing out to him said. So, she obviously cares for me now, kinda like Sasuke. She likes the idea of dating an old teammate who used to crush on her as a child, he thought in amusement. He didn't know her intentions now, but he would not allow her to hurt his family. About a year after you left, I think. We started seeing each other a few months after you had left, and he proposed about a year later. I was already 4 months pregnant with the twins when we got married, wasn't it? Ino turned a curious gaze to her husband. Yes, that sounds about right, dear. Naruto nodded as he walked toward a seat and sat down, transferring his daughter to his lap as he began to fuss with her hair. To this day he still couldn't figure out why he liked to brush a girl's hair, our long hair. He did it to both Ino and Mira as he found it soothing. Oh. And how did you two actually end up dating? Last I knew you two didn't really get along, Sakura stated in a dead tone. Naruto shrugged and glanced at Ino, who spoke up. Yes, I suppose that was true. The main reason we actually ended up talking was because you left. Sakura's eye twitched in repressed anger, which Ino didn't notice. Both of us were affected when you left. I was wandering around the village and saw Naruto at the ramen bar he always went to. He looked pretty down, so I went to talk to him. He bought me a ramen and things started off from there. Sakura's eye still twitched slightly, but she managed to get it under control when Ino turned her attention to her again. She put up a forced smile. Really? That's so nice. I am happy for you. Her teeth grinded lightly when she practically spat the word happy out. Ino blinked, seemingly picking up on the anger her old best friend seemed to project. She looked towards her husband, who nodded his head ever so slightly. She stood up and picked up Mira from her father's lap. Hey gorgeous. Let's go see what your brother's up to. Yay. Your dad and his teammate need to talk some. Ino smiled warmly at her daughter, who giggled. Okay mom. Bye Miss Sakura. She giggled as Ino carried her out. For a few minutes, there was silence, until Naruto chose to break it. Mira is a very innocent child. She is the daughter I always wished to have if I ever had children. To see her happy is a constant battle I fight. He glanced at a scowling Sakura. I became Hokage because it was my dream. Now I am here, as the Rukadame. My dream is finished. I now dream of making the dreams of my children become a reality, he spoke solemnly. Sakura glared at him. As lovely as that is, I don't really want to talk about that. What I want to know is why you gave up on me, why you let me go, and why the hell you chose Ino Pig over me, she practically growled. Naruto merely raised an eyebrow, much to Sakura's discomfort. The old Naruto would be spitting curses at her by now. Yet this Naruto was cool, calm, collected and wise. In a way, she was reminded of the third Hokage. Naruto had the same aura of power, yet warmth and wisdom the old man had. That is a simple answer. I never really loved you, he stated. Sakura turned red in anger. What the hell does that mean? He said he loved me. He said that ever since our academy days. Naruto chuckled. I think you have missed something. I did not love you in a romantic sense. True, As genins I had a crush on you, but I soon grew out of that. Sakura looked up at him, feeling some confusion, as if reading her mind. Naruto replied, I never loved you in a romantic sense, Sakura-chan. I thought of you as a best friend. Someone who would help me with advice or just someone who I could confide in, he explained calmly to Sakura, whose emotions were going haywire with all these confessions Naruto was making. But when I left you said you loved me, Sakura cried desperately. Naruto shook his head. No, Sakura. I said that I care for you, not that I loved you, he spoke softly. Sakura had to understand this. Sakura shook her head. No, I know you love me. You have to. You told me once you would never stop loving me, she cried. Naruto sighed. His teammate was still as hard-headed like she was as a genin, though Tsunade had cured her of this. Again, I meant the love of a friend. You will not always say you love someone, and it must be in a romantic way, Sakura. Naruto told the increasingly desperate Sakura. Sakura Tsunade glared at him. You said that you loved me. What does Ino have that I don't, huh? What makes that bitch so special? She spat, but was cut short when Naruto shot up off his seat. Naruto's eyes were blazing in pure anger. His clothes were ruffling as blue chakra began to come of him. The light seemed to dim and Naruto's tall form towered over Sakura, who was now regretting opening her mouth. You can insult me, Sakura, he growled darkly, but when you target my family, I get very angry. What does she have that you don't, huh? She is the most kind and gentle woman I have ever known. Unlike you who always screeches and cries. How many times as kids did you hit me? Hundreds. I love Ino with all my heart for who she is, and for how well she knows me, Haruno. That's why she's so special. Sakura sat frozen in her seat, shaking in both fear and anger. Naruto growled slightly. Enough was enough. Haruno, Sakura, as you have come back, you are once again a ninja of Konoha. Therefore you will be stationed to our allies in Wave Country. The new ninja village will be waiting your arrival. Your job as a medic nin will be helpful there, as the village of Wave is fairly new, Naruto ordered. Sakura jumped up. What? Who says you can order me around? She yelled. In case you have forgotten, I am the Hokage. You will heed my word. Your refusal will be seen as direct betrayal to Konoha, and the punishment for that is death. Naruto glared at her. You will remain in Wave indefinitely, and may only return to Konoha for mission-related purposes. You have 2 hours before you leave, he finished. Sakura got up and stormed out, angry tears spilling down her face. Naruto watched her leave before sighing to himself. She wasn't the girl he became best friends with. 3 years later, the Rokudame Hokage Uzumaki Naruto sat behind his desk, his eyes wandering briefly over the many ninja in the room. So it is over? He questioned the Anbu, a blank look on his face. Hi Hokage-sama. The war with Wave has been ended. The missing nins who had all joined the Wave army have been captured or killed, spoke the commander. Naruto sighed, before he took a sip of his tea. Who would have thought one small incident 2 years ago would have resulted in a 3-month war? Not a long period of time, but Konoha was not without its losses. Over 138 Chunin and 63 Junin had been lost, as well as 23 Anbu. Naruto sighed. He had known some of those people well. And of the leader? He questioned. Dead Hokage-sama. Her body was found her office. Apparently she took one of those instant kill pills Orochimaru had developed for his Sound 5, the commandant replied. Naruto frowned. So that's where the stolen pill got to. It was the final one found at the end of the war with Sound, and the Konoha medics had examined it. Some of its properties started many theories, and with it new medical breakthroughs. Very well, you may leave. Have some time to grieve for you comrades, Naruto spoke softly. The Anbu bowed and with a poof disappeared. Naruto sat back and sighed, before he cracked an eye open and glanced at the open window, and he smiled slightly. Are you two going to come in? Ero Sennin? Tsunade-chan? He called. Both Tsunade and Jiraiya jumped in through the window. Hey kid, how you handling? Jiraiya asked. Naruto shrugged. To be honest, I never expected any of this to happen, he sighed, but that can't really be helped. She manipulated us, them, even me. Who would have guessed she was building an army? Tsunade nodded. Yes, it was most unexpected, even more so when Rock became allies with them. The Cage is working on the peace treaty they will have to sign. Gaara is the best choice, not many dare stand up to him. Naruto chuckled. Gaara had become the Cage soon after his father's death. He had opened up a lot more and was more human, but he still had that aura of danger around him. He never had any relationships though. He claimed he just wasn't interested, but Naruto thought he was really gay. Yes, that is true. And Wave themselves? He questioned. Jiraiya spoke up. They have agreed to your proposed tray. After all, the people couldn't do anything to stand up to their leader, and had no choice but to follow orders. Good job, they actually aided us when we invaded the village. They suffered minimal losses. Naruto stood and stared out of the window where he could see the Hokage monument. The Hokage's hat hid his eyes from view and he seemed to age slightly. There is no such thing as minimal loss, Jiraiya. Every human life taken is important. That person could have been someone's husband, someone's brother, someone's father. Every life lost is a major loss to someone, he murmured. Both senins nodded at his wise words. Those were the words of a true Hokage, and Naruto had been their most powerful yet. Well, if you old people don't mind, he dodged Tsunade's swipe and sat back down at his desk. I am not yet retired, and so have to get on with some paperwork. Naruto smiled. Both senins smiled and bade him goodbye. Naruto sat there for a good couple of minutes, remembering his time on Team 7 as a kid. He smiled as he remembered him and Sasuke glaring and insulting each other, joking with Sakura and dodging her angry swipes at him. The three of them pranking Kakashi and laughing together as he wept for his soggy Icha paradise and them screaming in terror as the angry sensei chased them through the town. Sasuke was now dead, had been for years, killed by his own hand no less. He remembered his dying friend's last wish. To do what he could not and kill Itachi. To kill him for the terrible crimes he had committed. His last smile of approval, acceptance, as he slammed a Rasengan into his stomach. Then there was their other teammate, Sakura. Naruto sighed. After she had left, she soon became the leader of the Wave Village, and began increasing their ninjas' teachings, and secretly inviting missing nins from all over the continent. She soon declared war on Konoha, and began attacking. Naruto had no choice but to retaliate. Sakura herself never fought personally like Naruto did. Perhaps she knew she was too weak to do anything. Naruto sighed and sat back. Here he was, the last survivor of Team 7. Kakashi himself had resigned as a Konoha shinobi, and he and his wife and daughter moved to Mist. Last he had heard from Kakashi's letters, he was living a very peaceful life. He smiled slightly and looked at one of the pictures on his desk. It was the picture of Team 7 together and happy. Naruto glanced at the large pile of paperwork next to him and smiled. It wouldn't take too long to complete it all. He glanced at the recent picture of his family. Both Shika and Mira were giggling and hugging him, while he had one arm looped round Ino's waist. They were all smiling happily and Naruto couldn't help but smile. He turned towards the paperwork and smirked. Maybe he would tell Tsunade the secret on how to do it. Nah, let her figure it out herself. He smiled and made a cross seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Thanks for watching.